The Appalachian Mountains are older than bones, older than dinosaurs, older than almost anything we can comprehend. They stretch like a spine across the eastern United States, covered in endless forest, mist-filled valleys, and towns so remote they barely exist on maps. And if you've ever been there, you know the air feels different, thicker, like the woods are holding their breath. At night, the wind doesn't just blow, it whispers. Branches creak like something shifting its weight just out of sight. And sometimes you get the unmistakable feeling that you're not alone, that something ancient is standing between the trees, watching. The Appalachians are filled with folklore, not campfire stories, not fairy tales, but warnings. Rules people follow without question, because in these mountains, some things aren't meant to be understood. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true legends and witness encounters from Appalachia. And by the end, you may never hear the woods the same way again. There's a rule in Appalachia that gets passed down quietly, not in books, not online, but from grandparents to children, from hunters to newcomers. And it goes like this. If you're outside at night and you hear someone call your name, no, you didn't, because whatever is calling is not human. One woman from eastern Kentucky shared her story years ago on a local forum. She said growing up, her grandmother never let the kids play outside after sundown. And if they asked why, her grandmother would just say, "Because the mountains talk back." One night, when she was about 16, she snuck out anyway. It was summer. The air was warm, but damp. Fireflies blinked over the grass like tiny lanterns. She walked down the gravel road near her house, listening to crickets and the distant rush of a creek. Everything felt peaceful until it wasn't. From deep in the tree line, she heard it, a voice, soft, familiar, calling her name, Emily. She stopped cold. Her stomach tightened. It sounded like her mother, but her mother was inside, asleep. Then it came again, closer, Emily. This time, the voice had something wrong about it, like it was being stretched, practiced, not natural. She wanted to answer. Every instinct screamed to respond. But she remembered the rule. She turned slowly and began walking back home. That's when the voice changed. It stopped pretending. Now it sounded irritated, hungry. Emily. And then, from the woods, she heard footsteps, heavy, crushing leaves, keeping pace with her. She didn't run. Because in Appalachia, running is how you become prey. She walked faster. The footsteps walked faster. The smell of wet earth filled her nose. Her skin prickled with that awful certainty. Something was right behind her. Then she reached her porch. She didn't look back. She threw herself inside and locked the door. And behind her, outside, the footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, one final whisper. Right next to the window, Emily. To this day, she says she has no idea what was out there. Only that it knew her name. And it wanted her to say it back. Deep in Appalachia, They're places locals call hollers. Not hills, not valleys. Hollers. Narrow cuts of land between mountains where sunlight barely reaches. And cell service disappears. And there's another legend that refuses to die. That some people never came out. Families who vanished into the woods generations ago and became something else. Feral, wild. A former park ranger from West Virginia once told a story during an interview that still circulates today. He said in the early 2000s, he was called out to investigate strange reports. Hikers claimed they were being followed. Not by bears, not by coyotes, by people, but not normal people. The ranger and his partner went out just before dusk. The forest smelled like pine and decay. Fog clung low to the ground. And the deeper they went, the quieter everything became. No birds. No insects. Just the crunch of their boots. Then they found it. A campsite. Abandoned. Tents shredded. Food scattered. And on one tree, scratched deep into the bark, were symbols, not words, just jagged marks. Then they heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A low clicking noise, like someone mimicking an animal call. The ranger raised his flashlight, and that's when he saw movement. Up on the ridge, silhouettes. Too thin, too still, watching. He called out, "Hello, we're with the Park Service." No response, just staring. Then one of them moved. Fast. Not walking, almost crawling. And the ranger realized with horror. They weren't wearing shoes or clothes, just dirty skin, tangled hair, and eyes reflecting the light like an animal. His partner whispered, "Those aren't hikers." Then the clicking turned into laughter. High-pitched, wrong. And suddenly, they were surrounded, figures between trees, some crouched, some standing, all silent, watching like wolves. The ranger said they backed away slowly, never turning around, never running. Because something deep in him knew, if they ran, they would be chased. They made it back to their truck just as night swallowed the forest. And before he slammed the door, he saw one last thing, a face, peeking from behind a tree, smiling, not like a person smiles, but like something that learned how. Now, skinwalkers are Navajo legends. They belong to the Southwest. But Appalachia has its own version of the same fear, something that looks almost human, but isn't. In Tennessee, there's a story that's become almost famous among Appalachian hikers. A man was backpacking alone on a section of the Appalachian Trail. It was late October, cold enough that his breath came out in white clouds. The trees were bare. The forest felt exposed, like there was nowhere to hide. He set up camp as the sun went down, and that night, he heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling the edge of his campsite. He called out, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, from the darkness, a voice. Not loud, not threatening, just wrong. It said, "Hey." He froze, because it didn't sound like someone speaking. It sounded like something repeating a word it had heard before. He shined his flashlight. Nothing. But the smell hit him next. a foul, wet odor, like rotting meat. Then the footsteps stopped, right outside his tent, and he saw it, a shadow blocking the moonlight. Tall, too tall. He held his breath. And then it spoke again. This time softer, almost playful. Come out. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. Minutes passed. Then, scratching, long nails dragging across the fabric. Testing, and then the voice changed. It sounded like him, like his own voice, calling out, "Come out." The man said his blood turned to ice. Because whatever was outside was learning, mimicking, trying. At sunrise, he didn't pack up. He didn't eat. He grabbed his gear and ran down the trail. And miles later, he found other hikers. We told them what happened. One older man just nodded and said, "Yep, don't answer voices out here, especially when they know your name." The Appalachian Mountains are beautiful, but they are not gentle. They are ancient. And the deeper you go, the more you realize we were never meant to be the only things living there. Because in those woods, there are rules and legends and things people whisper about only when the fire is low. So if you ever find yourself out there and the wind shifts and you hear someone call your name, remember the rule. No, you didn't. Because some things in Appalachia don't want to be seen. They want to be invited closer. If you enjoyed this journey into the uncanny heart of Appalachia, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced something unexplainable in the woods? Because trust me, the mountains are listening, and they never forget.